All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. Back with another Cabral HouseCall every single weekend, answering our community's questions. Love being able to see what is going on in the community, what questions you have on all things wellness and body transformation, anti-aging, longevity, health coaching, being an IHP, and much more. So without further ado, we're all here to listen to the community's questions. I'm going to do my best to add my 25 years experience, over 250,000 people helped in our practice, and probably about 500,000 labs or more at this point that I've been able to oversee. So always feel very privileged and grateful to be able to just do my small part of paying it forward from everything that I've learned from those before me. All right, let's get right into it. Roman is up first. Roman's asking, howdy, Dr. Brawl. When I eat avocados, I get an itchy throat. I typically just eat a half an avocado. Is this an avocado allergy? I remember experiencing something similar after eating bananas. This hasn't happened in a long time though. Do I keep eating avocados? I mainly eat them because of all their health benefits and because they're delicious. What else might this be a reaction to in my throat? Thank you. All right. Happy to help. So Roman, this is typically an amine or histamine-based reaction. But again, I can't provide you with any medical advice, medical treatment plans, medical cures, and medical diagnosis. So again, if this is an emergency, please do seek medical help. All right. So typically not an allergy, but a reaction or a sensitivity, as we call it. So this means that an IgE or maybe IgA mediated response, the body begins to produce more from what's called a Th2 immune response, more of an immune response from histamines or cytokines, inflammatory cytokines, to this food that they're reacting to. And what happens is our rain barrel begins to build up over time to certain amines or histamines that we naturally produce in the body and that we consume through food. So for you, bananas and avocados can both block what's called diamine oxidase, so that's an enzyme that breaks down histamines, or add more to the body, such as in avocados. So this may mean that you have a sensitivity to that. And then, of course, what do, right? So the thing is, at first, we eliminate the foods that are increasing histamine levels in the body. Second, we say, why is the body reacting to these histamines? Could be a gut issue. So typically we want to run the big 5 labs or the big 3 over at stephencabral.com/shop. That'll just take you over to EqualLife, our functional medicine integrative health practice. And as we're lowering our rain barrel through not eating the food, we are running the labs. Then after that, we would typically do a functional medicine detox, and we would use olive oil for our healthy fat, which has the monounsaturated fats, just like avocado, but they don't have the same histamine response usually to olive oil. And we would begin a gut protocol if we needed to. And then we would typically increase products such as vitamin C, zinc, and HistPro, all of which can help with healthy histamine levels. All right, Roman, hopefully that gets you started. Heather is up next. Hi there. Thanks as always for taking the time to answer our questions. Can you tell me a little bit about toxic shock syndrome? I searched the podcast archives and couldn't find any episodes on the topic. My cousin got it from using tampons, and I was wondering what could be done naturally for toxic shock syndrome, and if she could use non-toxic tampons in the future. Thanks again. Okay, great question. I can't believe we've never talked about toxic shock syndrome. Probably have, but it might just not come up in the podcast archives, so I totally get it. You know, the unfortunate thing is, and we're going to be changing the game on the search box within the next 12 months using our friend AI, because again, we can use ethical AI to be able to help all of us in the future. And it will do a better job because it will search not only all the questions and write-up, but it will also search all of the words that I've ever spoken over now 3,005 podcasts, because today's episode 3005. If you want to read along with the questions, head on over to stephencabral.com/3005. And while you're there, pick up your free copy of The Rain Barrel Effect if you haven't already read it. I pay to print the book. You just pay for the shipping, and we'll get that over to you, all right? Or a family member. So toxic shock syndrome, for those unfamiliar, is often caused by a streptococcus-based bacteria or a group A strep bacteria, typically from keeping a tampon in too long. Let's go over that though. It's irrelevant whether it is an organic cotton tampon or not. Okay, so just keep that in mind. It is because it's not from the tampon necessarily itself, but it's the bacteria that builds up in the tampon the longer the tampon is kept in. And the most likely culprits for toxic shock syndrome tampons is not necessarily organic or non-organic, but of course I recommend organic. I'm not saying that like the less chemicals you put in your body, the better, of course, right? That's what the rain barrel effect is essentially about, and helping you get rid of them. But what happens is that the longer a tampon is left in and can absorb bacteria, and if there's any cut inside of the vagina, that could then be absorbed. So a couple things we need to look out for. Try not to use the super absorbent tampons, and be careful removing a dry tampon that may create microscopic tears that may then allow more bacteria to enter your body. Okay, so those are the biggest things. Signs, symptoms. Again, I can't give medical advice, but signs and symptoms, just trying to remember off the top of my head for toxic shock syndrome. But I've talked about this with many, many women in my practice and on other shows as well, other interviews. Low blood pressure, fever, rash. Those are the main ones I can remember right now. Seek medical attention if you do have those symptoms. Really, really important. It's rare. It's not common, but it can happen, and it happens regardless of whether the tampon is organic or non-organic. All right. So hopefully those tips are helpful. Thank you, Heather, for writing in. Really important issue. All right, Jacqueline's up. Hi, Dr. Cabral. I'm an IHP, and I'm so fortunate to have been taught by you. I love being able to share your podcast knowledge with friends, family, and clients. You've really changed my life in so many ways. Thank you. Thank you, Jacqueline, and thank you, everybody, for the kind words. I mean, it really does mean a lot to me. I don't ever mean to kind of glaze over it, because it's fuel. It really is. It keeps me going every single day. I mean, I do a podcast every day, and I've done that now for 3,000 days straight. And I do it just because it took me a long time to get well, 10 years, right? But I met my mentor. She drove down from where she lived in Maine. I drove up from Massachusetts. I hopped on a bus to meet her. I'll never forget that day. And I'm just trying to pay it forward. And that's a commitment that I've made. So thank you, Jacqueline, and thank you, everyone. I appreciate you, especially our IHP family. All right. Jacqueline says, personally, I wanted to write in and ask if you have any feedback regarding factor 5. I was diagnosed after my mom's diagnosis. She had pulmonary embolisms after a long elective surgery, but she went 2 pregnancies, C-sections, and other surgeries without knowing this until it happened in her 50s. I'm now planning a family. And my OBGYN said I will need to take baby aspirin daily while pregnant, or heparin injections. This is very scary to me, considering I do not take any medications. Any information on this condition, and especially alternative supplements, would be greatly appreciated. Okay, so putting my phone on airplane mode. I always have it on airplane mode, but I'm traveling, and so I'm out of my typical loop here. So what is factor 5 for those who are unaware? Factor 5 is a rare condition where the blood begins to clot, or may clot more easily. Okay, so that's a very simplified way of saying it, but I think that's good enough for our show. And then, of course, I always have to just reiterate, can't provide any medical advice here, diagnosis, treatment plans, or any of those other things, cures. But what can we use then to help the blood potentially from clotting? We have a lot of natural factors at our disposal, and this is something that has come up so many times, in my practice. It really has. We talk about these things all the time. And the most common nutrients that I share with people is consuming garlic on a daily basis with your food, if you're able to. Great, if it doesn't cause any stomach upset. Ginger can be really helpful. Turmeric, really helpful. And then some specific ones. Cayenne, great for thinning out the blood. Cinnamon can be excellent. Vitamin K, you can just use vitamin D3. Vitamin K is a great one. So those are the main ones that I use with people typically on a daily basis. We don't need to go overboard, but those are all excellent blood thinners. And the other one, of course, is a daily omega-3 support, typically 2 grams or 2 soft gels per day. All right, so that's what we're looking for. But if you ever go in for surgery, then you need to come off your blood thinners at least a week before. Speak with your medical doctor, speak with your surgeon, because you don't want thin blood during a surgery, of course. That would be bad, right? So there we have it. Hopefully that's helpful. I think that was good. Yes. All right. Anonymous is up next. Hi, Dr. C. I had the flu in January, and I was feeling run down for 3 weeks later. Feeling run down for 3 weeks later still. I have fibromyalgia, so everything seems to last longer for me. Is it to do with mitochondria and ATP? Last 3 months, I also have tinnitus and it's getting worse. Can you help me with that, please? Now I had flu-like symptoms again for 1 day and sore throat and coughing and mucus for a week. Yesterday I went to sleep earlier because my body just felt so tired and I slept for almost 12 hours. Aura says it was 11 hours and 48 minutes. And although there's 3 hours and 18 minutes of REM, there's only an hour and 36 of deep sleep and a lot of that at the end. So if I slept for a normal 8, it would be much less. Usually I almost never get 90 minutes of deep sleep. Why am I getting so little deep sleep and how do I make it better? Thank you for your help. Okay, so Anonymous, I was in your exact position for a decade. I get it. It's awful. I had fibromyalgia. I don't talk about it as often because it was one more thing I had, honestly. Like wasn't good. But yes, fibromyalgia is inflammation. I mean, fibromyalgia is inflammation of the nervous system, the neuromuscular system. So it's how your nervous system interacts with your muscles. It can create aches and pains and weakness and fatigue. It absolutely is in the same family as chronic fatigue. So chronic fatigue, immunodeficiency syndrome, CFIDS can be it. I had Addison's disease, which is kind of like a high level, we'll say, of chronic fatigue, immunodeficiency syndrome. Your body does not deal with inflammation very well. Part of it is because the mitochondria aren't that strong and there's maybe not as much of them. And so they can't combat the inflammation. They can't produce as much ATP, adenosine triphosphate. So then the cycle continues to repeat. Low energy, can't combat the inflammation. So inflammation continues to surge, which is why when you get sick, it lasts longer. Like that's the truth. That was me. Like literally from late October, early November through April of every year, sinus congestion, sinus infection, over and over and over. Typically then it would go into my lungs and it would cause bronchitis. And then for 5 out of 6 years, from essentially my junior year of college all the way through my mid-20s, I had a pneumonia for 5 out of 6 years. It was awful, right? I mean, the same immune system as a 90-year-old. No exaggeration, and I'm not saying anything bad about 90-year-olds, but most 90-year-olds, their immune system isn't that strong. And mine wasn't either in my late teens and early 20s. I had a terrible immune system, so I get it. So there's not one thing I can do for you, but this is how I can help you. Please read The Rain Barrel Effect. The book is now free. You can buy it on Amazon, yes, but I also can get it to you at half the cost. Because I print the book, cost me like $7.50 to print it. It's a 400-page book. And then you just pay to ship it. And that's around like $7 or $7.90, something like that. So that's the best thing to do. That's where you start first. Then after that, you run the big 5. Then you work on all the underlying root causes that are leading to the fibromyalgia and the weaknesses. So food sensitivities, heavy metals, mineral imbalances, low levels of certain vitamins and minerals, imbalances with omega-6s to omega-3s. We'll fix all of those things. Then the body begins to rebuild back its resilience. If you're able to take IHP, that's what I would do. I'd become an IHP because you'll learn so much during the process as well. And then you'll probably want to go on to help others. That's the truth. So you can learn that at, so first, SteveCabral.com. You'll find the free book, or SteveCabral.com/ I think probably free book. My team set it up there, most likely. Then run the big 5. Join IHP. That's at integrativehealthpractitioner.org. You don't have to do any of these things, honestly, but we have to overcome the whole thing. And then, all right, how do you get more deep sleep, more REM sleep? Free podcasts on that at SteveCabral.com/podcast. Literally just type in deep and REM, or just type in REM in all caps, and my shows will come up on how to increase REM and deep sleep. There's a 2-part series plus additional shows. All right. And then if you want all my shows on sleep, go to SteveCabral.com/podcast, scroll through the images at the top, click on sleep. All my sleep shows are right there. It's all free. All right. All right. Marika is up next. Marica, Marika, maybe? I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce that. That might be the first time I've seen that. It's a beautiful name. I like it. It also could be Marcia with the I and the C, transpired, or transfused. What's the word there? I don't know what the word there is, but let's move on to her question. Hello, Dr. Brawl. Can you talk a little bit about selenium supplementation and its possible side effects? I was about to start taking some selenium supplements to help with my TED, and I just read somewhere that it can cause skin cancer. Thanks so much. Okay. So selenium is an absolutely essential mineral in the body. Selenium works for detoxification. It helps improve thyroid. It helps improve serotonin neurotransmitters, and it actually acts as an anti-cancer mineral. Not increases it, but decreases, potentially, cancer. So here's the thing. By overdoing anything, it's always a bad thing as well, right? You can overdo everything. So the benefits of vitamin D are everything from anti-cancer, energy, hormones, blood sugar, etc. But if you take too much vitamin D, it pulls calcium into the bloodstream, right? But taking too much vitamin D is only what conventional medicine does, like 50,000 IUs at a time, 100,000 IUs at a time. That's nonsense. That's not good health, right? What do you usually get from the sun every day? 5,000 to maybe 14, 15,000 IUs I've read and researched. So what's the normal dosage that a human should take through supplementation a day? For an adult, 2,000 to 5,000 IUs a day. That's it, right? Not the 50,000. Okay, let's get back to your question. For those who aren't familiar with TED, T-E-D, it stands for thyroid eye disease, if my memory serves me correctly. And basically, it's part of Graves' disease, which can affect inflammation around the eye, the muscles and the tendons, ligaments around the eye, I believe. Okay, so selenium, we would typically not increase iodine, selenium, etc. for those with Graves, if you have Graves, and now you have TED because of it. So we would typically look to work on autoimmune-based responses that may be causing the Graves, or elevated levels of cortisol or stress. So I've got tons of podcasts on the thyroid. Selenium is an amazing mineral, so I don't want people to be scared off by it. But you don't want to do really more than 300 to 400 micrograms of selenium per day. We're typically using 200 micrograms in our practice. That's how we're using it. So hopefully that's helpful. And if you want direct help from my team, if you only want to run one lab, it would be the stress, mood, and metabolism test. Now, that's part of the big five. We always say if you can, run the big five. But if not, run the hormones test. It's called the stress, mood, and metabolism. You can find it just by going to stephencabral.com/shop. It'll take you over to EcoLife. Click on the labs, click on stress, mood, and metabolism, or you can use the search box. You'll be able to find that. Every lab run over at EcoLife gives you a personalized plan and a call with one of our EcoLife health coaches. So hopefully that gives you kind of the best of all worlds. And if you have an IHP level 2, you can actually run the EcoLife labs through them as well. Then they'll do a consultation with you. They'll do follow-ups. They'll get you a plan. So all of them are fantastic. You can go to integrativehealthpractitioner.org, click on the Practitioner tab. You can find IHP2s in your local area. They're all over the world. It's an amazing community. Or, of course, you can go over to EcoLife, whatever works for you. This was amazing. You're all amazing. I appreciate you being a part of this health community. Of course, let's share this knowledge with others, right? It's not my knowledge, not yours. Let's share it with everyone. It needs to get out there into the world. So thank you all. Again, appreciate you. I'll be back tomorrow with a brand new Mindset and Motivation Monday. Don't miss it. Thanks so much for tuning into today's show. Before you go, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I want to make sure that you're getting our daily content, not missing out on anything functional medicine, wellness, weight gain, weight loss, anti-aging, living longer, stronger, and all of the most cutting-edge research. And if there's any topics you want to hear, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Take care.